It's a pretty significant increase in sorry, let me get that real quick. Sorry. I'm coming, alright.
My main goals are that I really want to.
I think it's really important that we.
A Tuesday meeting should work fine. On second thought,
the blog post is actually scheduled for Thursday this week.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And that's a very funny video, and I think we've all had things like that happen to us. Now we've been working from home and working from all the different locations. And so myself, I'd better not stand up now because you'll be able to see what I'm wearing underneath this shirt. So, well, look, thanks very much for having me. I'm going to share my screen now. And I'm going to start to present to you all. So let me know if you can see the slides up there now. Can you, is everything okay there? Okay, great. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you about today is combining an endpoint resilience and a network persistence for a work from home anywhere society. I work for Absolute Software, and Absolute, you may see the name Netmotion, and so Absolute purchased a company called Netmotion, and we now have a combined product set. It's got a lot of value for organizations, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So, unfortunately, despite spending an expected $150 billion on IT security and risk management tools this year, about half of organizations are still being breached. And worse, they're breached an average of about 5 times in a year. And that's why experienced security professionals like you and me, we always talk about it's not the fact of if you're going to get breached, but when you're going to get breached. As we're all painfully aware, the pandemic added not only the complexity of enterprise environment, it added not only to the complexity of enterprise environments, but also expanded the attack surface significantly. IT organizations had to abruptly deal with tens of thousands of employees working remotely, with each employee's home effectively becoming an extension of the corporate office. All this happened overnight with really, really fast and at scale. One customer told us that they had to contend with at least 10,000 new home office locations within a week. Businesses had very little time to react and support this sudden change. And this created a help desk support nightmare. Seemingly overnight, organizations had to redefine work from home policies, implement new digital strategies, invest in new infrastructure to ensure workforce productivity wasn't disrupted. And all at the same time, they had to prevent security compromises as well. Industries that are heavily dependent on employees coming physically into the office had to rapidly change. So things like retail, healthcare, and hospitality, they had to rapidly accelerate their digital adoption and transformation initiatives to ensure that their business could continue, stay competitive, or even stay in business itself. And so as we slowly come out of the pandemic, and who knows what will happen in the future, one thing's pretty clear is that the future of work is a hybrid one. And in this new work and learn from anywhere era, focus must shift to creating and implementing a broader IT strategy that enables the entire organization to work from anywhere. Businesses will need to relook at how and where applications are hosted and ensure the entire workforce has seamless connectivity and a great experience. And at the same time, implement consistent security policies, no matter where those users are connecting from. As employees operate in this new work from anywhere environment, alternating between home, the office, a cafe, all with different networks, IT will be challenged with inconsistent visibility and control, which in turn affects their ability to support and resolve those user issues. On one end of the spectrum, IT traditionally has a deeper visibility and control of users working within the office. If there's any issues, they can quickly diagnose those issues and they can remediate them very quickly. But that can't be said for remote users that are connecting from their home Wi-Fi network, an airport Wi-Fi network, or a hotel room. And as organizations aim to implement zero trust principles, the notion of trusted and untrusted networks no longer exists anymore. High efficacy security controls need to be uniformly applied regardless of where the user accesses their data from. Users expect consistent and good quality experiences no matter where they are. For example, they don't want to have to switch off their VPN, re-authenticate, and log into a separate interface with a separate password each time they want to come into the corporate office from home. Ultimately, users want the technology to work, and they don't care what happens at the back end to make it work. If they can reliably and consistently access the resources they need, that's all they want to do and all they need to do their job. And so this means that IT need a higher level of visibility when users work from home to ensure a consistent experience regardless of their location. Organizations that can't solve this dilemma are faced with increased disruptions, increased risks, and increased costs. The shown stats here are just a few examples of the potential negative outcomes. So 2 hours a week of productive time can be lost due to interruptions in their connectivity. 55, that's over half of all help desk tickets today are related to the endpoints. $25 million is the average cost of mobile technology interruptions on a 10,000 person company. And 3.86 million was the average cost of corporate data breach in 2020. So what should you focus on when optimizing your IT and security strategy? Remote work is proven to be successful in that it keeps businesses running, it keeps employees engaged. The underlying foundation of a reliable and productive work from anywhere environment is anchored around employees' endpoints, as well as secure and reliable network connectivity that allows them to exchange information and access enterprise resources, no matter where they are located. Considering that endpoints serve as the main points of access to an enterprise network, many threat actors exploit security gaps in the endpoints. In fact, a recent survey revealed that 68% of organizations suffered a successful endpoint attack within the last 12 months. Now you might wonder what the reasons are. Often the efficacy of established security controls on endpoints has been impeded, and this can occur to decay of the software collision. So when two products are running at the same time, they compete for resources, or maybe simply because a threat actor turns them off so they can operate without disruption and risk of detection. Our own research confirms this as well. We run a wonderful report across thousands and thousands of organizations. And what we found was that about 25% of devices at any one time will have an unhealthy security control present. So you may be running BitLocker, for example, and at one point in time, 25% of those BitLockers might not be encrypting the device. Another thing, physical environment is not usually secured, and because the employees that are using these devices are a bit more casual about how they're using them. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a cafe and seen people leave their laptop on a desk, on a table, and disappear to order food or go to the toilet. Another thing to note is that remote access devices are the most vulnerable because, thus, it's not surprising, 50% of organizations have seen evidence of compromised endpoints being used to access company data. News articles always focusing on the exfiltrated data from the server locations, but ultimately, the breach often starts at the endpoint where the attacker is moving laterally. And considering that the era of anywhere workforce is not going away anytime soon, we must brace for the worst to come. 76% of organizations expect to increase their amount of remote access over the next 2 years. So the dilution of the traditional security perimeter requires a new approach to cybersecurity. Organizations must ensure the entire workforce has seamless connectivity and a seamless user experience, and at the same time, implement consistent security policies, no matter where those employees are connecting from, a cafe, at home, in the office. As companies think through their long-term IT and security strategies in this new work from home hybrid era, they need to consider the following focus areas. always on visibility and control. So organizations should deploy technology that allows for a higher level of visibility when users work from anywhere. Ultimately, you can't remediate what you can't see. Gaining uninterrupted visibility and control of all your employees' endpoints, applications, data, and network connectivity, even if you're on or off the corporate network, is vital to establishing baselines that are needed for timely remediation actions. A resilient endpoint. As the work from anywhere approach is putting heavy emphasis on availability and security of endpoints, that these are the main productivity tools and access points to the corporate resources, you need to assure that these devices, as well as all the installed mission critical applications, are always functioning and functioning correctly. Thus, making each endpoint resilient and intelligent is paramount to supporting and securing your anywhere workforce. And it goes far beyond self-healing cyber security systems you may have read about. What's really important is providing a consistent end user experience for anybody, anywhere, from the executives all the way down to the lower level workers. Besides IT manageability and core security aspects, organizations need to focus on the remote worker itself and ensure that they have the insights and visibility from endpoint to network edge that may be impacting the user experience. Things like device issues. Has it got an outdated operating system? What's the hard drive capacity? Is their home office Wi-Fi performing okay? VPN tunnel performance issues, things like that can all cause problems and cause poor user experience. So IT need to quickly identify the root cause and be able to remediate these issues. They need secure access, reliable access to enable the secure, productive work from anywhere environment. It's really essential to extend the concept of resilience beyond the endpoint and include network connectivity and critical applications as they're providing the necessary means for employees to get their job done. In this context, organizations should start down the path to transitioning from a legacy enterprise VPN and start moving towards a zero trust network access paradigm. This is essential if you want to start to move to a secure access services edge kind of methodology of working. And so to do this, it requires a network to establish trust with an endpoint device that is constantly on the move and accessing corporate assets that may be in the cloud, maybe on premises, or in a data center, and they're using a myriad of Wi-Fi and cellular networks, and these aren't always owned by the organization. In fact, the majority of times they're not owned by the organization. And ideally, you want all of these capabilities delivered by a single vendor. And so this is where Absolute comes in, and Netmotion by Absolute. We enable a reliable, resilient work from anywhere experience, ensuring maximum security and uncompromised productivity while enforcing zero trust principles. So in this context, Absolute, a bit about Absolute, we're trusted by more than 40% of the Fortune 500, including top financial institutions, healthcare providers, professional services, national governments, and entire school districts. For example, in Australia, where I'm based, we have one school district that has nearly 200,000 devices under management. So these customers take advantage of the fact that the company's persistent technology returns devices to their state of safety and efficacy after a malicious attack or even user error. And thanks to our unique location, which is actually in the firmware of the devices, it's always on and always connected. So it's in about it's in more than 500 million devices that are built by the world's top system manufacturers. If you look down at the bottom of the partners that we work with, so if you have a Dell laptop, a Lenovo laptop, a Panasonic laptop, an Acer laptop, a Fujitsu laptop, where the Absolute software is already embedded into that firmware and it just needs activating. So furthermore, leading field service organizations like US Airlines, public safety agencies. For example, in the US, we have about 85% of all the police forces using us. We have emergency services in Southeast Asia running on our software as well. And they base their entire response system on on the way that we optimize network connectivity and provide continuity capabilities. And so this is just a brief sample of more than 16,000 customers we're serving and some of the partners that have packaged our solutions into their offering. So what we find is that many organizations out there face common problems across their organization when it comes to assuring this reliable, resilient work from anywhere environment. Three distinct areas that are often top of mind. They want to achieve operational efficiency and productivity. So obviously this is an area that has gained importance now that everyone's working from home and working in this hybrid way of working. As organizations need to ensure that their employees stay productive from wherever they work and whatever network they're connected to. So the challenges that we hear about for companies that want to achieve and gain operational efficiency are, they want to prevent downtime and disruption of service. They've got low visibility into failures and root causes. They can't tell people why they're having a problem. They're managing application connectivity issues. They're dealing with poor adoption of tools. They've spent a lot of money investing in a unified comms system or a Zoom or Teams, and not many people are using it because it doesn't work very well. And they've got overlapping tools as well. Another challenge that we get, and I think every single person here will be thinking it as well, is they want to mitigate security and compliance risks. So to support this sudden shift to remote working, many companies had to adopt a move first and a plan later approach. And they had to leave their network-centric security bubble behind. And that allowed IT security teams to own and control most of the network. But ultimately, punching holes in this existing security in the name of business continuity created vulnerabilities and exposed many organizations to risk. Cyber adversaries capitalized on this rapidly changing environment by intensifying their attacks and targeting the weakest link in the chain, which is the remote worker. This led to a 141% year-on-year increase in volume of data breached and created the following challenges that you'll all know. You've got to prove regulatory compliance. You have to manage that endpoint application and agent decay. All of those security tools that you've got running on your devices, how do you know that each one of them is working 100% of the time? You're dealing with low endpoint visibility and control, overlapping capabilities or operational silos, and remediating security incidents like ransomware attacks, even though your endpoints might not be connected to your corporate network. And then the third challenge is that people really want to enable the business. They don't want to just settle with second best. They want to actually provide the business with tools to make things work better. And so some of the challenges we have here are IT are dealing with frustrated end users, inefficiencies in the process, shadow IT, which everyone will know is a big problem, lack of visibility into the systems, and poor application performance. And so I guess a challenge to those of you out there now is which of these challenges are top of your mind? Do you want to achieve operational efficiency? Do you want to mitigate risk and compliance? Or do you want to find new ways to enable the business? And I challenge you to have discussions with our colleagues at PAA and ourselves to discuss this, how we can help you. And so what I thought I'd do is just talk a little bit and give you some ideas of the challenges, and then outcomes and capabilities, and then why Absolute can help you if you do have one of those challenges. So if you've got a challenge and you want to achieve operational efficiency and productivity, what are the desired outcomes that you're looking for? You want a high visibility from the endpoint. You want to know where it is, what's running on it, what's the experience people are having on it. You want to reduce the amount of help desk tickets. If you went from 2 offices with 500 people in each to now having 1,000 offices, your help desk calls are going to go through the roof because people are dealing with different networks, applications that don't work from home, connectivity problems. And so you want to reduce those help desk tickets. You want to know and reduce the number of rogue devices and applications that are being used. You want to know what those rogue devices and applications are. You want to improve the business specific KPIs, and you want to consolidate your vendors. So what are the capabilities that you need if you want to achieve these desired outcomes? You might want an automated, always on experience. So the user wherever they are, opens their laptop and just carries on working. Everything is there, from their VPN to their security controls, but they don't notice it running in the background. It's just always on, and connectivity problems and security problems don't get in the way of them working. IT wants the capability to be able to see and control the endpoint, no matter what network it's on. You'd like to have self-healing applications, frictionless security. So when we say frictionless security, it means the users don't know the security products on their device. They don't have to maintain them. They don't have to realize, is it working, is it not working? And you want really flexible deployment options. And so this is where Absolute can help. Automated remediation. We've got policy controls, very dynamic policy controls at the endpoint. We've got real-time and actionable data, application persistence, and a way to help you transition from VPN to ZTNA. Okay, if you've got a challenge and you want to achieve operational efficiency or productivity, let's look at like a case study here of one. So let's look at the large insurance company, for example. So the problem was that field adjusters for the insurance company were complaining about device performance and overages, and the carrier team had consistent executive escalations due to the perceived solution performance. So what they did was they installed Absolute Net Complete on their Samsung devices, and IT, from the information that was gained from these devices, they gained visibility into performance gaps of the networks, where the networks were, where there was black spots, where there wasn't black spots, and that saved them 50,000 in the first month with proactive coverage identification. We proved to them where one carrier was working, where another carrier wasn't working, where they were getting Wi-Fi, when they weren't getting Wi-Fi, where there was problems, and then root cause analysis reports on how they could fix that. And we showed them that there wasn't much difference between two of the carriers that they were playing off against each other, only 1%. So if your challenge is to mitigate risk, what are your desired outcomes that you'll be looking for? Self-healing security controls. You don't have to monitor them and get alerts when they're not working, so you have to manually go fix them. You want them to self-heal and fix themselves. You want evidence of governance and compliance. Should there be a hack, you want to prove that you did everything possible. You want your critical applications always available and always up. You want a reduction in the triaging of calls to find out what it is. You want to lower that time to repair, be proactive in understanding problems rather than reactive. And you want an improved risk score for when you get audited. And so the capabilities that you might require or need to get these desired outcomes. So you want automated application healing. You want to be able to track, locate, and recover your endpoints wherever they are in the world, whatever network they're on, even if they've had the hard drive removed and replaced, or the device has been re-imaged, you want to be able to track, locate, and recover those devices. And that's to do with we're in the BIOS, so that you can always do that. You want universal application visibility. You want to know what data is going through a tunnel if it's going on premise, and what's going outside directly to the cloud. And you want to enforce governance policies on that as well. And so this is again why Absolute. We're in the BIOS. We're enabled. It's undeletable connectivity and persistence of that device to your organization, so you can always see it, always read it, always understand what's happening on it. We've got NIST certified data delete and wipe. Will tell you what file structure is that we've deleted and give you a certificate for it. We've got that unbreakable endpoint connection for your applications. We've got secure access and factory activation for some of our device manufacturers. When they leave the factory, you can activate this. So we know that a lot of organizations get devices stolen from a warehouse or stolen in transit. We can stop that from happening. And we've got these really dynamic policies at the endpoint, which change the security posture depending on the context that device can read. So if we have a look at an example of how we've answered this risk and compliance problem. So if we look at this large retailer that we work with, So the problem was that without application persistence, a ransomware attack deleted the anti-malware, which was Cisco AMP, across their environment. And so how could they fix that in the future? So the solution was to use Absolute Assist, and it helped restore the OS on the impacted devices. And afterwards, Absolute Resilience self-healed their newly deployed solution, which was Sentinel-1, through application persistence. And the result was they were able to begin recovery efforts much faster and have confidence that the security controls always remain installed and healthy and future-proof them against future attacks. And that last challenge that a lot of people are facing at the minute, how do they enable the business to do better? So you want the always-on work from anywhere workforce. They just work from wherever and they've got access to everything. You want to give them a great experience, like they were sitting in the office. You want reduced management of the infrastructure. You want persistent, reliable network applications wherever they are, on premise, in a private data center, in the cloud as a SaaS service. And you want people to take up the adoption of these new and innovative applications that you're deploying. And so the capabilities here are the automated always on. You want the support of multi-OS. You want these adaptive policy controls, traffic visibility, you know, what users, what traffic and what data are users consuming? Are they where are they going on the web? And you want a VPN and ZTNA with a single platform. And so why Absolute? Again, we're built into the BIOS. We've got automated policy controls. We can put quality of service on applications to prioritize them up and down. We've got the seamless remote access where the user doesn't care whether they've got a VPN on or not, just they get access to everything on premise or in the cloud. And they've got direct paths to their applications, so native applications rather than having to use VDI, which can be clunky and not give people a great experience. And if we look at a bit of a case study for this, so we look at the law firm. They need a secure, easy to use means for attorneys and staff to access their critical office resources without any complicated login requirements. So they implemented our Absolute Net Complete. And what this did was it gave them a seamless user experience over any connection. So traditionally, their old VPN would disconnect every time the network dropped or the network was high latency or packet loss. But with Netmotion, it was always on, their applications always worked. They didn't have any re-authentication attempts because the network dropped. So it effectively gave them an office-like experience, even when they were working from cafes, from home, from their different law offices, from courts, things like that. So at Absolute, it's our mission to enable this reliable and resilient work from anywhere, new hybrid working that people are doing. We're assuring not only resilient security endpoints, but we're combining this with the capability to also provide resilient, secure access to the resources that they need. So in the end, an endpoint device is not offering much value to its employees if it's got bad network connectivity. And in turn, it's important to select a vendor like Absolute that it combines these two aspects together in its portfolio. And so we want to address your risk end to end by combining all these different things, which is endpoint data intelligence, self-healing applications, endpoint security posture, an always on, always connected network, secure access, and a network data intelligence to give that optimal user experience. And so Absolute, we offer you a broad range of capabilities across our two product lines. And this is going to help you assure that you've got endpoint resilience and resilient zero trust network access. And so we've got you covered to address any of your current challenges. If you wanted to do this with other vendors, you're probably looking at about 3 to 4 different vendors to help put that together, which in itself increases complexity and security risks in there as well. And so business needs change, buyer motivations differ from different organizations to organizations, and we keep it simple. So we offer you different service tiers across our two product lines. One product line focuses on endpoint resilience and starts with fulfilling the core needs for visibility, extending to controlling the device with confidence, and ultimately hardening your devices at the resilience layer. And the other product line allows you to transition to a resilient ZTNA posture over time. And so Netmotion, called Netcore, the product, this service tier offers a high performance enterprise VPN. It can easily be extended to enforce zero trust principles and provide optimized user experience as part of the service tier. And both these services are delivered on top of the same platform, which leverages the same agent technology and admin console and allows you to shift towards ZTNA at your own pace, or just even maintain a subset of VPN connections across your environment. So to ensure success, we have a lot of different innovative products, but instead, the products don't define the success. It's around the services and the partners that we have around it. And so the people, processes, and partners that we've got can help you be successful. And so together with PAA, we're delivering a comprehensive customer success program for you. It'll consist of onboarding, training, design, testing, deployment, optimization via health analytics, technical support, and customer success management. And don't just believe Daniel, who's telling you everything. We've got some great reviews on G2 Crowd and Gartner Peer Insights as well. Really proud of the ratings we've received amongst our peers, and we've got some awards on there as Momentum Leader and Customer First status as well. And so we really pride ourselves on very, very high customer satisfaction. And with that, I will say thank you very much, and I'd like to open the floor up to any questions. Hello.
Gathering the question. We have 3 questions from the audience. Hold on. Yes. Number 1 is, what benefit or difference of absolute remote versus Forti's client or global protect VPN built-in firewall?
Okay, so I mean, they're both very, very good, great products. We've been developed specifically with our own protocol that allows to remove any network inconsistencies. So if the network drops, or if there's high packet loss, or if you switch between different networks, our tunnel will always persist and will just build back up again. And any applications that are traveling across that link will pause and carry on. So the application doesn't break, the application traffic does not break, even though the tunnel might break. And so the end result is that users don't have to re-authenticate if the network drops. They don't have to restart an application if the network drops. And the users, everything just works. You can even put your laptop to sleep, open your laptop back up, and it'll just carry on. The VPN tunnel will carry on working, and all your applications will carry on where they left off as well. So the way we have this persistent and resilient network link is different from the point-to-point security solutions that our competitors have.
Okay, we'll go to the number 2. How to protect endpoint from access anywhere?
So let me think about how to answer that one. So how to protect the endpoint from access anywhere? I'm wondering if that means how do you protect the endpoint from being grabbed and stolen, perhaps, from anywhere? So with Absolute Software, because it's built in the BIOS, we get a lot of reports of stolen laptops and hacked laptops. And so even if somebody gets a hold of that laptop and manages to log into it, we can prove that we can prove for compliance that it was locked. We can prove that it had encryption technologies on it. If the user wiped it and wanted to steal it and wipe the hard drive, as soon as it connects to a network again, it will come up on a map and tell you where that laptop is, so it can be retrieved and by the organization. And so even if it is stolen, even if it is hacked into, we can prove and give an audit trail of when it was stolen, when it went off the network, if any files were accessed, if it was logged into, if it was wiped, and if it comes back on the network, then the IT department can send a kill command or a wipe command or a lock command to it anywhere in the world, whatever network it's on at any time.
Okay, we go to question number 3 from Rika Shahyadi. How to build awareness of digital security from ourselves if none of us is still know how to maintain security on digital networking? Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, this is perfect for discussing with PAA on this and to talk with those guys, but also if you get the right security product, that will take a lot of the a lot of it away from you. You know, if you buy best of breed products and you know that something like Sentinel-1 is always going to help you detect and remediate some viruses, then that will take a lot of it away for you. Like and like absolute software, if you install that, you know that it's always watching your other security products to keep them always on and always working in the background. So that will, buying good software and working with a partner like PAA will help you piece together the jigsaw and make sure that everything is automated so that you're not always constantly trying to firefight to fix things.
Yeah, thank you to Mr. Daniel Pratt for the great presentation. Thank you so much. Dan sekarang kita akan bantu jawab untuk disampaikan ke narasumber. Baik, next we have Netmotion by Absolute. Webinar topic Network Endpoint Visibility will be presented by Mr. Jacques Besson as the Senior Sales Engineer. To Mr. Jacques Besson, the time is yours.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today about Absolute software. So just to sort of recap the whole theme that we've got going here is that with everyone working outside of your network, you sort of, as employees, operate in this new world or work from anywhere environment, alternating between campus or out of office or off-campus networks. IT will be challenging with inconsistency, with visibility and control, which in turn affects the ability to support and resolve users' issues. On one end of the spectrum, IT traditionally has deeper visibility and control over users working within the offices, allowing quick issues, diagnostics, and remediation. The same cannot be said for remote users connecting from their home networks or Wi-Fi's or the airports, because there's no visibility from the traditional IT model. And as organizations aim to implement zero trust principles for the notion of trusted and untrusted networks no longer exist, high efficacy security controls need to be informally applied regardless of where users access data. Users expect consistent and good quality experience no matter where they are. For example, they don't want to have to switch off their VPN, re-authenticate and log into a separate interface with separate passwords each time they come into corporate office, or ultimately users want their technology to work and they don't care what happens in the background if they can reliable access solutions and consistently access the resources they need. This means IT needs higher level of visibility when users work from home and to ensure a consistent experience regardless of the location. Organizations can't solve this dilemma, are faced with increased disruption, risk, and cost. To show stats are just a few examples of potential negative outcomes. Now, diluting of the traditional security perimeter requires a new approach to cybersecurity, whereas organizations must ensure the entire workforce has seamless connectivity and seamless user experience. And at that time, implement consistent security policies no matter where employees are connecting from. Now, as employees think how their long-term IT and security strategies in this new work from anywhere era, they need to consider the following focus areas: always on, visibility and control, resilient endpoints, and consistent end user experience. Now, always on, visibility and control, organizations should deploy technology that allows them for higher level of visibility when users work from anywhere. Ultimately, you cannot remedy or fix what you cannot see. Gaining uninterruptible visibility and control of all of your employees' endpoints, applications, data, and or network connectivity, even if off corporate networks. It is vital to establish a baseline and needed for timely remediation actions. From a resilient endpoint, as the work from anywhere approach is putting heavy emphasis on the availability and security of endpoints that are the main productivity tools and access to corporate resources. Organizations need to ensure that these devices, as well as all installed mission critical applications, are always functioning, thus making each endpoint resilient and intelligent is paramount to supporting and securing your anywhere workforce, and goes far beyond self-healing cybersecurity systems you might have read about. Consistently end user experience, besides IT manageability and core security aspects, organizations need to focus on the remote worker itself and ensure they have insights and visibility from endpoint to network edge impacting the end user experience, including device issues, out of date OSs, hard drive capacity, home office Wi-Fi, and network issues, VPN tunnel performance issues, and problems with the application itself due to.
Sir?
Yes.
Can you open your presentation? We cannot see your presentation.
Let me. That is not good. Share screen. Is that better?
Yes.
Oh,
now we can
sorry about
see
that.
Your presentation. Thank you.
Sorry, you should have stopped me earlier. All right. Now, as part of adopting the work from anywhere environment, obviously secure, reliable access to enable secure and productive work from anywhere environment is essential to extend the concept of resilience beyond the endpoint and include networking connectivity and critical applications as they are providing necessary means for employees to get their job done in the context of organizations should start on the path of transition from enterprise VPN to zero trust access network, which is the foundation of the established secure access service edge or SASE paradigm. To do so, it requires the network to establish trust with an endpoint device that is constantly on the move and accessing a mix of corporate assets in the cloud and on premise, or in a data center using hosts of Wi-Fi and cellular networks that aren't necessarily owned by the organization. Ideally, these capabilities are delivered by a single vendor. Now, at Absolute, it's our mission to enable reliable and resilient work from anywhere. Thus, we ensure not only resilient, secure endpoints, but combine this with the capability to also provide resilient, secure access. At the end, on an endpoint device, it's not offered such value for employees without network connectivity. And in turn, it's important to select a vendor like Absolute that combines those two aspects in the product portfolio. The objective here is to address your risk end-to-end by combining your endpoint data intelligence, self-healing applications, endpoint security posture, an always-on connected network, secure access, and network data intelligence for optimal user experience. And let's go into the demo. Get a presentation. Can everyone still see my screen? We're seeing a black screen, wrong screen. Let me just switch this. There we go. Can everyone see that? Is that big enough for everyone? All right, so let's just move that out of the way. So from an absolute point of view, you've got, if you can't see things on endpoint, you can't react to it. Having other endpoint solutions on there is only a part of the endpoint, and with absolute, we are embedded within and each of the laptops out there in the BIOS. And once activated, the device will talk to us. Now, from a quick view, this is our dashboard view where we can see when last a device, what we refer to as dark devices, where a device hasn't talked back into our platform. Now, that could have been because maybe the user's on leave, or maybe it's stolen and there's other actions that need to be looked at. From a repair and reinstall. So within our presentation and our presentations yesterday was, we talked about persistence application, where when you delete an application or service, we can restore that and repair that installation as part of that. And we've got multiple vendors that you'll see in a shortly that work in conjunction with us to deliver that complete end-to-end control, but also visibility on those endpoints. Now, looking at these ones, you could see the encryption status of my fleet across different hard drive encryption statuses. You can see that 34 is not encrypted, so I can actually pick that up. From a repairs and install, I can see there was 8 failed on BitLocker, Microsoft SCCM, and Dell encryption. This also allows you, this dashboards, to move around as you feel need. We also cover its usage. We will know when a user is logged into a device and not being active versus logging in and doing activity, right? So you can see the average of our demo fleet is an hour and 43 minutes, which is, basically lightly used. You can see status of anti-malware deployments across my fleet. So you can see in which application that is, and allowing you to see, if there's any, we talk about, application decay, where you've got 1 or 2 services that might conflict somewhere because of memory resources, and it, breaks it. We can actually check the healthy, unhealthy connection. So let's quickly have a look here at BitLocker, which is unhealthy at the moment, and it will bring me up those devices that will allow me to give better status into it. You can see also from a BitLocker perspective, none of them are compliant. So if I go into, let's see, where's my demo box? There we go. If I go to the actual device, the amount of information that I get on here is, it also acts as asset tracking and asset management tool, where we can see what operating system is there, but it also gives me a quick overview of my security controls that I have available or not available in this case. You can see my box is running more than 3650. The device is moderately used. It tells me my location. It's true because I am in Australia. And it also gives me more details. Now, a part of our solution is, when we delete, or when the user accidentally, delete the agent, we can repair our own agent, we can reinstall our agent. And this works well when you sort of move into, from a risk point of view, because your endpoint is out of your control, out of your network. You trust that device when it talks back into. So as part of our solution, we can detect if people they add more memory, and that allows you to bring in some alerts back to IT compliance to sort of address those those IT users of those compliance risks out in the field. In addition to that, I mean, you can see there's a whole lot of information. In addition to that, we can also do application tracking. So what applications installed, or even what applications, even in just the EXE, just on a like PAC.exe, you don't need to install it to run it. So that in-memory applications that's there, and we'll pick up, and you can then build structure around that to either block it or delete it, depending on your risk factor. Now, from a EDDR summary point of view, let me just explain that that's basically a data discovery, endpoint data discovery feature that we have, that we can actually, based on credit card information, personal health information, it can scan files and systems across your endpoint and then report saying, well, it failed. There's potentially 112 health record information across my device. So you can actually pick that up. You can also build your own one, especially when it comes to compliance, especially in the finance and the health systems, both government and private, where you need to know what data is on the endpoint, because if that device gets lost or stolen, you've got liabilities potentially back to your organization, and potentially, damage of your brand name, and potentially lots of fines depending on where you are in the world. Now, we can also, within this, we've give you the ability to delete just that particular data. So we can either delete all the data or particular file where we can further investigate. So you can actually pick which one you want to delete and then delete only that particular file, or you can remove everything. Now, this is scanned. You can change the frequency of these. The scans, you can do it every 24 hours, once a week, depending on your fleet and your devices. You could also see history, right? So unfortunately, the people that want to get access to this data is typically fairly smart or cunning, where they'll get the file on the device and then copy it away. So when the next scan comes up, it might not be on the device, right? So was it really there? You can go back in history and see that information. So you've got to lead up to discovering the data, or potentially the data that is lost, and then remedy it accordingly, right, based on the information. We've got, I'll almost do this on groups. It will take a while to load. It will cancel shortly, sorry, my apologies on that. And then I want to go to policies. Now, policies is what you configure that you want to detect. So you can create either a global policy, which is the default, or you can do individual groups. So you could have one for finance, one for IT, one for cybersecurity, one for HR, and they can do different things, right? So endpoint discovery, personal health records is the main thing here, and it tells me how far it went through a scan already. It's in progress, as you can see. So you've got a leading up what processes and information is being stored on. The other thing that I just need to point out is that our solution is not waiting for the server to communicate. So this is with no VPN in place. This is just our small agent talking back to us. and giving us this information and you the control that you require. You can see geolocation. You can see there's a lot of applications as part of the policy that's not active because of this is our resilient side. So we can actually, once it enabled, we will monitor that process and agent on the endpoint, and if somebody deletes or it stops, we will reactivate or make sure that it's working all the time rather than just hoping that it's working, right? From a usage point of view, as I said, we can see activities there. So if I go into yesterday, we can actually see it logged in, but nothing has happened. So there was no real activity, but it also knows my IP address. Now, this is both local and my public IP address, obviously from my ISP. Now, this becomes normal as part of my presentation. You need to build up a baseline of devices and users, usage across your fleet. So when something goes out of the norm, say for instance, I connect from an IP that's outside of Indonesia or China or wherever it may be, or Australia in this case, then a flag needs to happen. Something needs to alert you to do some actions because the device, is this user really traveling? Is the device potentially stolen? And so you can actually do some actions around that. Now, you also get obviously event history of all of those things that I talked about. You can see frozen, unfrozen, and we'll talk about that shortly. I want to go on location history, but I don't want to go on to my machine's location history because it's fairly static. I will show you what we do from a location history point of view and how far and we can track it. What I want to sort of talk to now is the actions where a device is out of compliance or it's stolen, right? Because that's important bits and pieces in there. So I'm just going to remove a freeze here. Yep. Cool. So excuse me. I've got a dog here in the background, sorry. So basically what we've got is we've got options here to do a lot of things. I briefly showed you, you can delete data or files. I'll talk about run script shortly because that's very important as well. So as your fleet is talking out on different networks, not necessarily talking through a VPN back into your environment, you've got almost no control over that. But if a device gets, stolen, you've got the option to push down a message based on what you've got here. So I've created a little, security awareness one where your machine is out of compliance, and we'll actually bring in a device name. And so when the user opens up their machine, they will see this with no real way to get around it. So if I say next, I'll just step you through the process here. Next again. And basically it says on next connection after a date. So this is also when you've got contractors or in the education space where people are using corporate assets and they don't bring it back in time, it will freeze the device. So it renders the device basically useless because we are built in the BIOS of the hardware of the motherboard. There's no real way to circumvent us. So if I say, let's just do a generic one there, 1, 2, 3, 4, next. And the next time that device talks back, we will freeze it. Now that also brings me to run a script. So I just want to talk about that as well. So we've got over 140 different PowerShell and bash scripts that you can enforce on iOS and Windows devices out in the field. And this is PowerShell scripts based on, delete manifest files, add font, remove, where's the one that remove domain and user from a device. So when you unenroll devices, and as people are moving through different, you might get promoted, so you need to get certain access. You can all do this remotely without that device ever coming into your environment. So you've got a full control over what you can control and do on that endpoint. In addition to this, we talked about, and some of our partners also talked about, where you do device encryption. We've got the ability to, depending on the data on the device, if BitLocker is installed, we can remove the encryption key for restoring that device. So we actually destroy the recovery key and then reboot. So there's no reference of it. So making that data null and void, regardless of where the machine is in the world. Now, I just want to get back to that. I'll talk about I want to get a location just to show you some of the location aware stuff that we have here. To that device. There we go. Let's get to this one here. So this is the Dell Windows device. I can see, so if I go to this particular location, it gives me location history, right? So you can see it hasn't really moved there. But if I go say, well, I want to see the last 30 days, it actually shows me a different where I've actually moved, you know, from Vancouver up here to Alberta and back, right? So you've got no change and then a change. So you've got full track and visibility of where that endpoint is, and then you can base action. So you can say, if this device leave a certain geographic area, so you can create geofencing and it talks back, you can freeze the device, right? So you've got full control over what the device is doing out there in the field. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you, so this is from the endpoint resilience point of view, monitoring that. We haven't even touched the networking side of it. So let me flip my tab here to Netmotion Mobile IQ. So this is from a networking point of view, where the device is connecting to and what information you can get. So from a you know, sort of a visibility point of view, is we've got performance, threat defense, and cost control, and I'll go into this a bit shortly. So from a performance point of view, is traditionally you've got full control that's accessible within your environment, the quality of your network, applications, and so forth. But the minute they move outside of your network, you've got no visibility, no control over what they're connecting to. So you might have experienced, or you've probably, your end user have probably complained about, the application is slow. Why can't I get to, you know, application X, Y, Z? You sort of bring that in, and when you try to troubleshoot it, because they were connected on a remote network, home network, they were traveling, it's difficult to troubleshoot for the help desk. So you spend effort on a help desk resource or IT resource, try to troubleshoot that, and that sometimes with no end result, because it could have been the Wi-Fi, it could have been his hotspot, it could be the location. So you sort of struggle to understand that. With our solution, you've got the ability to, you know, sort of see, I mean, connection persistent, meaning that there was a packet loss or the connection drop, and we prevented the disconnecting of the application. You could see over 500 network failures. What was that failures? Cellular failures? Was it network loss more than 5 minutes? Wi-Fi failures? Or diagnostics report failures, which is quite an interesting one, because it's a custom test of your applications. You can build whatever it is, and that's from the endpoint back into your environment or back into your SaaS platform. So you can establish what is there any network relating issues, and then you can troubleshoot that. Now, if I go into, and it also gives you some disconnect reasons there, there's lots of information, but what I want to show you into network diagnostics, which is basically those, you know, those issues. What is the issues that people in my fleet is experiencing? Can't they connect to SAP or SAP, or, you know, is there, you know, so it gives you a good, this is over a 24-hour snapshot. You can see fail, good, bad. You can see the lucky winners, devices, and the users associated, and where in the world basically all of these events are happening, right? So you can get a quick overview of that. But if I go back to, I want to actually see the details of those reports. If I go to report list, I can then see if something has happened, what was the quality of the network? Why did it, particular application failed? So if I go, let's go, there's a failed one. It's a Samsung device out in the field. Let's have a look. So it tells me when it failed, the device, who the user is, what platform it is. This is automated, but you could also schedule it via policy. And you can see internet connectivity, but there was a ping warning. So if I look at that, it tells me ping count, and it basically times out. You can see the latency on that, just from a ping perspective. But if I go into all tests, I can actually go into network interfaces, go into much more detail and saying, what was the active connection, right? It was not connected to cellular. It was connected to a Wi-Fi connection called roll tide roll with a BSSID. That I could see the speed that particular SSID is delivering to that end user, the interference, but also the signal quality. So how close am I to that actually hotspot? In addition to that, I can actually see the routing tables of that device. And this is all helpful information to help troubleshoot my help desk to troubleshoot this remotely. And as you can see, there's all heaps of information here. If I go back, couldn't connect to that server because that port might be blocked, or IPS change, or whatever it may be. So you can bring all of these custom tests, and that's from your endpoint into your network and giving you full visibility on that. We could also do things like, I won't go into too much time in too much detail, but happy to have a conversation afterwards, or talk to PAA to sort of have that discussion. But we basically can give you basically a grid of the type of networks and people and the quality that they are experiencing while out in the field, right? So we can see, and we can track it even further. And this is just from a pure networking point of view, right? I'm going to zoom that one out. So we can do different things. So from a threat defense point of view, this is obviously a hot topic as part of security awareness. Is everyone is running pretty much the same applications, and sometimes you install something, this is a cool new thing, but do you know where the data is going? Now, for especially government agencies, they want to know where the data is going. And with this tool, we actually have a visibility in the application, and it could be a valid application, but we actually can see where the data is going across the globe. So we can see there's some information going to Russia. I can see who the user is there, and there's 2 application sessions onto that, right? So I can actually understand what's happening there. The same, I can click anywhere in the world, it will give me tuckers everywhere. So there we go. So we can see that's Australia. So if I want to change that, I can change the filter to just his information. So now I'm tracking just not where data is going, I'm actually tracking the end user based on the applications that he's using. And I want to find out what that application is so I can block it or mitigate the risk associated with it. We could also see here is for Daniel in this case, where most of the destinations are going, data consumed, countries, the least. And you can see he's got iPhone and a Mac Airbook. So now I can take that even further if I want to, right? So let's see where his Safari traffic is going. So now I'm not just looking at his laptop anymore. I'm looking on his mobile device because it seems there might be some, data, getting removed from it. Now I can see, all right, so for his Safari browser, I can see he spent, went to all of these destinations, and I can actually track how much data is spent on each of those locations. Now that might be good or bad, but from a threat defense, obviously, point of view, you want to make sure that your users and devices are going to reputable sites and they don't put your business necessarily at risk going to, dodgy sites. So because our agent is installed on the endpoint and basically becomes a remote proxy / firewall that you control on the endpoint before it hits the physical network interface, we can monitor traffic both inside the tunnel and outside of the tunnel using our technology. So as you could see there's malicious URLs and path, phishing sites, but it also tells you devices, where they're going, but also more importantly, it actually shows you, I'll just move a little bit down, which application is actually getting there. Now, if I click on any of these, which I just did, can't remember on which I clicked on, malware sites. So it just brings up everything, right? So there's my risks. So now I can use this information to build policies to control and limit access to information.
Sorry, Mr. Jacques.
Yes, running out of time, I understand.
Just want to remind you, the time is 5 minutes left.
Yep. Is that including questions?
Thank you.
So from a cost control point of view, you want to understand how people are using networks, what type of networks are being used as well in relation to all of the other information that we have. So with all this visibility that we give to your endpoint and the networks it uses, you can then determine, is data going inside, outside, and address, potentially cost changes or strategies moving forward to make it the best possible solution. From a networking usage point of view, this might not be valid, but if somebody is spending more time in a Starbucks, for argument's sake, on this free Wi-Fi watching Netflix, you can block that SSID as it relates to risk, right? You can also see when you purchase or deploy a new application, are people using it, right? Is it really money spent that you're getting back in your return on investment? So this is a quick snapshot of, you can see different applications and how much data is consumed.
Sorry,
in the...
We have question.
Yes, please ask.
From the audience, the question is, what kind encryption that Netmotion use? And the second is it cloud-based or we can deploy prem?
Sorry,
Sorry.
Yes, so we are flexible deployments. You can either deploy on-premise or in your private cloud. We also offer a SaaS-based platform as well. So you've got all three options available. From an encryption point of view, we use AES 128-bit up to 256-bit encryption. Next question? Or
yes, number 2, is it cloud-based or we can deploy on premises?
Yeah, so for Netmotion, you can deploy on premises. The asset tracking side is a cloud-based solution that's hosted out of Canada.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
2 minutes left.
All right. Yeah, so I've basically, so you can now, if you go further down, you can see what address any, why is people not using it, or why is people only using it when they're on the cellular network, or not in the office. So we focus on emergency services and first responders like police and ambulance services to get that. But we've also got, tracking and tracing with Absolute, where we can actually pin down where a device gets stolen And 7 years later, it popped up in another country, and that device talked back because of our technology, and we were able to recover that device for our customer.
I'm sorry,
so it's
sir.
also, yep.
The question number 1, can you repeat again? The answer,
About
sorry.
About the encryption.
The question is, what kind encryption that Netmotion use?
Yep, AES 256 encryption. Does that answer the question?
Okay. The question is, what kind encryption that Netmotion use?
Yep, it's I'll just put it in as AES 256-bit encryption.
Mr. Jacques?
Yes.
Can you repeat the answer for from number 1?
Yeah,
What kind
it's
encryption that Netmotion use?
AES 256-bit encryption.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Not a problem.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jacques Bessen, for the great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.